Welcome friends to the Mysterious Shadows channel. The story I will tell you today will be real horror stories of night driving. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel before switching to the video. I hope you enjoy watching and listening. Have a good time. Dwayne and Sam were driving through a deserted forest at midnight. They had gotten lost in the depths of the forest, and the only light source to find their way was the headlights of their car. The headlights flickered, illuminating the road ahead, creating an eerie atmosphere with the darkness and silence outside. The car's engine echoed in the quiet night. After a while, the road narrowed and turned into a path lost in the forest. Dwayne was carefully driving while Sam was trying to find the way on the map. Suddenly, they noticed movement illuminated by the headlights. Both of them focused their attention, and a figure appeared a few meters ahead. A man wearing a rabbit mask and holding an axe stood in the middle of the road. Dwayne abruptly hit the brakes, and the car came to a sudden halt. The man stood still, staring at them through the mask's eye holes. Sam's heart started pounding. A wave of fear and adrenaline surged through him. Dwayne thought about putting the car in reverse, but the darkness and narrow path behind made it difficult to escape. The man slowly started walking towards the car. Each step echoed in the deep silence of the forest. Dwayne and Sam watched in frozen terror as the man approached. He raised the axe towards the car, and for a moment, time stood still. Suddenly, the man swung the axe at the car. Glass shards flew everywhere, and Dwayne and Sam remained glued to their seats, paralyzed by panic. Dwayne instinctively hit the gas pedal, and the car lurched forward. But the man struck the car again with the axe, this time hitting the door. The door buckled with a loud noise. Dwayne tried to drive faster, but the road became more narrow and uneven. Sam looked back and saw the man still behind them, running after the car. In terror, he shouted a warning to Dwayne. Dwayne gripped the steering wheel tightly and continued to drive as fast as he could. As they drove deeper into the forest, the sounds and sight of the rabbit-masked man gradually faded away. Dwayne and Sam took a brief moment to catch their breath. Both were out of breath, unable to shake off the terror they had just experienced. However, the danger was not over yet. When they reached the end of the road, they saw another figure standing in front of them. This time, the man had a chainsaw instead of an axe, and his mask was still on. Dwayne and Sam were once again gripped by fear and tried to escape. The car was heading towards a cliff at the end of the path. Dwayne slammed on the brakes at the last moment, and the car stopped. The rabbit-masked man reappeared, this time charging at them more fiercely and quickly. Dwayne and Sam got out of the car and started running into the depths of the forest. The chase continued throughout the night, making it the most terrifying night of their lives. They were lost in the depths of the forest, but at least they were alive. The dark shadow of the rabbit-masked man became an unforgettable nightmare etched into their memories. The Johnson family was driving along a desolate forest road at night. The only light came from the car's headlights, casting eerie shadows among the trees. Inside the car, Mark was at the wheel, with his wife Lisa in the passenger seat and their two children, Emily and Jake, in the back. The forest around them was dark and silent, creating an unsettling atmosphere. As they navigated the narrow, winding road, Mark noticed figures in the distance, waving frantically and shouting for help. He slowed down, and the headlights illuminated the desperate faces of two men standing in the middle of the road. Their clothes were torn, and they looked terrified. Mark stopped the car a few meters away from the men. The family watched in apprehensive silence as the men approached, their eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, from the shadows of the forest, a terrifying figure emerged. A man wearing a mask and wielding a chainsaw burst into the light, the sound of the roaring chainsaw echoing through the night. Panic seized the family. Mark hit the gas pedal, trying to maneuver the car around the men, but the road was too narrow. The two men screamed and ran towards the car, banging on the windows, begging for help. The masked man with the chainsaw closed in, swinging the deadly weapon. With no time to lose, Mark accelerated, trying to drive past the attackers. The masked man struck the car with the chainsaw, the metal screeching as it tore into the door. Lisa screamed, clutching her children as the car swerved violently. One of the men managed to cling to the side of the car, but the other fell to the ground, left behind. The family could hear his desperate cries fading into the distance as they sped away. The masked man, undeterred, continued his relentless pursuit, the chainsaw's roar growing louder. Mark drove as fast as he could, but the narrow, winding road made it difficult to gain speed. The masked man was unnervingly fast, and he was closing the distance. The man clinging to the car was pleading for them to go faster, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Suddenly, the road ahead split, with one path leading deeper into the forest and the other towards a small clearing. Mark made a split-second decision and veered towards the clearing. The car bounced over the rough terrain, the masked man still in pursuit. Reaching the clearing, Mark saw a small cabin with its lights on. He drove towards it, hoping for safety. The man clinging to the car fell off, tumbling to the ground as Mark stopped abruptly. The family scrambled out of the car and rushed towards the cabin, banging on the door. An elderly man opened the door, his eyes widening in shock as he saw the terrified family. Without a word, he ushered them inside and bolted the door behind them. The masked man reached the clearing moments later, his chainsaw still roaring. Inside the cabin, the family huddled together, listening to the chainsaw's menacing sound outside. The elderly man grabbed a rifle from the wall and motioned for them to stay quiet. They heard the masked man banging on the door, trying to break in. After what felt like an eternity, the noise stopped. The silence was deafening. The elderly man cautiously peered out the window and then turned to the family, signaling that it was safe, for now. They had survived the night, but the encounter left an indelible mark on their souls. As dawn broke, the family realized that only the elderly man's intervention had saved them. The image of the chainsaw-wielding man and the terror they had faced would haunt them forever, a reminder of the night they barely escaped with their lives. Mike, Jason, and Alex were driving along deserted roads at midnight. The three close friends had embarked on this journey to escape the city and enjoy the serenity of nature. The road was dark and silent, illuminated only by the car's headlights, and the engine sound filled the night. Their journey was going smoothly until they were suddenly jolted by a noise from beneath the car. As Mike tried to control the vehicle, it shook violently and came to a halt. The tires had hit a spike trap and burst. The three friends, bewildered, got out of the car and looked down. In the middle of the road, they saw a carefully placed spike trap. As they pondered what to do, they noticed movement coming from the darkness of the forest. Figures began to emerge, one by one, surrounding them. At first, there were only a few, but they soon realized the number had grown to 100. Each had a different, horrifying face. Some were painted grotesquely, and others wore hideous masks. Their eyes glinted menacingly in the dark as they advanced towards the friends. Mike, Jason, and Alex retreated, thinking of returning to the car, but it was too late. The gang was closing in from all directions. This terrifying horde emerging from the darkness had encircled them like prey. The friends tried to run, but the gang quickly caught up with them. Each was brutally knocked to the ground, their terrified faces disappearing among the attackers. The gang wielded stones, clubs, and knives. Every blow, every strike, was painful and lethal. When Mike fell to the ground, the gang continued their ruthless assault. Jason writhed in agony in a corner, but he soon fell silent too. Alex tried to escape, but he collapsed after only a few steps. The gang, their eyes gleaming with savage delight, closed in on him, delivering the final, fatal blows. The night was filled with the friends' screams and the gang's barbaric attacks. When the road fell silent again, only the ominous stillness of the forest remained. The bodies of the three friends lay by the roadside, next to their car caught in the spike trap. The gang, having finished their gruesome task, vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only a trail of horror. This dreadful night had been the last for Mike, Jason, and Alex. Their journey, that began on deserted roads, had turned into a nightmare. The forest silence would forever hold their screams and their final, terror-filled moments. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. See you in other videos.